Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. And isn't it wonderful to be in a room today of like-minded people? And I don't think them rooms are often easily found, are they? I mean, did anybody tell somebody with maybe a bit of a cynical mindset that you're coming along to a day and you're going to listen to 15 people that have got around 10 minutes to share an idea that's going to change and transform the world? You're laughing because we've all got plenty of family and friends that maybe think, are you being serious? How can someone change, transform, and save the world with an idea that might be 10 minutes? I think that's a pretty long time. Because you remember back to the days that we went to school, when you walk into school for the very first time, full of anticipation of the unknown, of where will you sit, who will you meet, which teachers will you have, will people sit with you at lunch, all that anticipation that's racing through your body, just like I felt when I walked out here for the first time today. And as you enter school, you walk in with an open mind, just hoping that somebody will be kind to you at some point throughout the day. So when you say 10 to 12 minutes to deliver a speech with an idea and that might change the world, I think we can say something that lasts 3 to 5 seconds that can last a lifetime. How many of us, just raise your hand if anybody in here has heard words that were said to them many, many decades ago. Sorry for the older ones, I'm not looking at you there. But maybe years ago that you heard words that you still remember today. Just raise your hand. And just raise your hand if you heard words that were slightly negative towards you in some way. Raise your hand if you heard some positive words from somebody that was kind too. And it's great to know that we hear both. And today I want to share an idea with you that I believe if we follow and we apply, we can be that person that shares a kind word to somebody else. Because I believe kind words give people the courage, which I think is the key for any young person or any adult to look in the mirror and ask themselves the question, who and what could I really be? No limitations of how far you can go, of what you can accomplish. With a mindset of nothing is out of my reach if I give it all that I've got. And I'm going to share with you right at the very end how I believe we can do it. But first, who likes stories? Put your hand up if you like a story. A little bit. Put 2 hands up if you love a story. And now I'm going to really challenge us, as culturally we're very reserved, aren't we? When I walk into a school, especially a primary school, if you walk in and you say something that's remotely any good, every child claps. And then we become adults. And we do that, don't we? So I'm going to challenge you now, because I hope my speech today allows you to hear words differently. I hope it allows you to feel them more deeply too, then share them more impactfully as you walk out of this room. Now, to do so, you've got to play all in with me so I can give you my best too. And I want you to imagine, as you're sat down right now, you're no longer the adult that has to be careful of how we behave, what we wear, and what we say. That child within is going to come out just for a few seconds, then you can go back to being that excitable adult that sits quietly. So, if you really and absolutely love a story, on the countdown of 3, what I want you to do, I want you to remember what you was like as a primary school kid. And I want you to stand up and clap like you're that kid once again. Now, if you don't, this makes me look really bad on video. And if my speech doesn't go well after this, I'm sure Wayne upstairs could at least clip this bit and put it at the end so it looks like it's gone really well. So on the countdown of 3, forget you're an adult, you're a child once again. 3, 2, 1, do we love a story? Thank you so much. Thank you. It gives me a chance to breathe too. A young boy walks into primary school on this particular day, and he's greeted by his head teacher, a guy called Mr. Spencer. He looks at the young boy and he says, "Would you like to go on a school trip with us?" The boy looks back and said, "Where's the school trip, sir?" The head teacher says, "It's Wembley Stadium, the home of the national football team where England play. We're going to go and watch the schoolboys. Would you love to come?" The little boy looks up. "You mean Wembley Stadium, the Wembley Stadium that I've seen on television?" The head teacher says, "Yes." The boy says, "I want to go." The head teacher gives the boy a letter. He's told to take it home to his parents and see if his parents will pay for him to go. The boy takes the letter home, probably the only time he ever took a letter home from school, because it was a good thing. He gives the letter to his parents. The parents read the letter. They agree for the little boy to go. But if anybody's got children, the magic catchphrase is, I'll pay for you to go, but you best be good. You best behave. The boy takes the letter back with the £15 check, gives it to Mr. Spencer. Mr. Spencer tells him in 4 weeks' time, you're going to go to Wembley Stadium, son. The boy can't wait. He can't sleep. He's like the little kid in the back of the car on holiday. Are we there yet? His mum says, if you don't stop asking, you're not going. The Friday before, his mum tells him, tomorrow is Wembley Stadium. You're going to go and watch England play. The boy can't sleep. He wakes up in the morning, gets his tracksuit on. He gets to the school bus first for the very first time. As he gets on the bus, it takes him all the way to London, to the famous Wembley Stadium. All the way there, the boy's looking out the window with the creation within his imagination of what will it look like? How big will the players be? What will the pitch look like? What songs will the fans sing? And as he arrives, he gets off the bus and he walks towards the stadium. And as he gets closer, he goes through the turnstile. And as he walks in front of his eyes is some concrete steps. And as he walks closer and closer to the concrete steps, he can see the sky starting to open up. Now, this little boy knows once he climbs to the top of the steps, what's he going to see? You're allowed to answer. He's going to see the Wembley Stadium pitch for the very first time. His legs start to go like jelly, like mine feel now. He climbs the steps, he gets to the top, and as he looks, the England team are warming up. They're passing the football around. Now, all the other school kids just rush past and take a seat because to them, it's just another school trip. To this little boy, it was his opportunity. It was his time. And as he stands there, he goes to take a step forward. But guess what happens? His feet are stuck. He can't move. He's so overwhelmed with where he is. He never thought he'd be in a place like it. And as he stood there, Mr. Spencer, his head teacher, he walks beside him, he looks at him, he says his name, and he points to the England team. And he says 6 words to him. He says 6 of the most simplest of words you could ever imagine, and casually walks off, same cap, same jacket of which he always wore. And as he sits down in the arena, a little boy stood there, and he looks at the head teacher and he looks at the England team. And the 6 words are racing around this boy's little mind, asking himself, what if he's right? What if he's right? The reason I share this story with you is because the head teacher was right. And 5 to 6 years later, the boy was no longer a spectator. He was now the boy on the pitch. He was now representing England in the very game he'd been to watch all those years before, because one person said something that lasted a few seconds. So if the cynic questions you again of coming to a TEDx talk that's for 10 minutes, you tell him, Mr. Spencer said something that lasted seconds that changed someone's life forever. And as the boy stood there representing his country, singing the national anthem, he looks up, and guess who's in the stadium watching him? Mr. Spencer, with the next primary school children, empowering them to fulfill their dream. See, I believe in a world that when our children walk into school, like I wish we had done when we was young, that our teachers teach compassion, empathy. We deliver education with inspiration, not just information, because education with inspiration equals action. For a young child to become their own creation, not what somebody tells them they should do or must do. I believe in a world that every single one of you that has the child within can relight that child within you by helping somebody else, because the greatest gift we can give is a kind word to another human being. And the mirror effect is absolutely unbelievable. By helping another person, please put your hand up if you felt bad when you've helped somebody else. I'm so glad nobody put their hand up. That would have been really awkward. Put your hand up if you've helped somebody else for nothing in return and you felt really empowered by your act. Just put your hand up. And I think we can do it more by the words that we choose to share and how we share them. I'd now like to share with you 3 things that I believe Mr. Spencer had. That I believe that if you walk out this room today and you do nothing else, if you live to these 3, of which I do my best to as much as I can, that you'll change somebody's life and you'll change your own in the process. And that child that's within you, super excited, that stood up and clapped a few moments ago, will become you more often. Because every one of us in this room has more dreams to accomplish than we've yet achieved. I know that. Because the amount of conversations that you have with people say, I wish I had of. If only. We don't want to be that person. And by inspiring somebody else and being the facilitator for somebody else to become their own creator, I believe it will help us achieve our dreams too. So number 1, behind every pair of eyes is a story. How often do we see someone, we look, and what do we often make without wanting to? What do we make? A judgment. We look and we make a judgment. Now, that's not our fault. But what is our fault is what we decide to do with the judgment of which we've had. Could we give someone a chance when nobody else had? Like Mr. Spencer did for that little boy. Could we give that person beside us in the coffee shop, in the restaurant? Could we call them by their name? Could we make them feel as special as we could in that first interaction? Just by giving a bit of effort and not staring at our phone. So behind every pair of eyes is a story, so always be kind because you know nothing of which that person is going through. That's number 1. Is this going well so far? Oh, someone said yes, I like that. Thank you, young man. Give that man a round of applause. Thank you. I once did a talk not so long ago, and my primary school dinner lady, Mrs. Quigley, will love me for mentioning her. She came along, and she sat on the front row, and she laughed and clapped at everything I said and did, even when it wasn't relevant. But it made me feel brilliant. It made me feel brilliant. Share words with passion. You can say something, but if you're not really meaning it, it just gets lost. And I hope, if nothing else, you hear from me today. I've got passion. I share what I believe with passion. And if you say something to somebody, make sure you say it with meaning. Say it with fire. Say it with passion. Because they'll feel it and they'll do something with it. But if you just hear it and you don't feel it, it'll fade away. So share your words with fire, share them with passion. And the third one is be the voice through your actions. Be the voice through your actions. Don't be the one that drops the child off at school and says, put your hand up today. If there's an opportunity, take it and then play safe yourself. Be the voice, lead by example. Realign your dreams with the dreams you want the young people around you to follow. Think of the things that you could still do, that little person might look at you and go, I'm proud of what you're doing. And it doesn't have to mean that you're going to become the next Walt Disney. It just has to mean that you're doing more than you've ever done to have more than you've ever had. My mum always said to me growing up, whatever you do, son, don't live your life like me and your dad. Don't live your life like me and your dad. And all she meant by that was, you want something, son, you go after it. You go after it. And we're fortunate today to be in a room of like-minded people that laugh, clap, and encourage each other, that share words of wisdom. I encourage you to leave the room today and be that person for somebody else. Because the person behind you that you'll see now is Mr. Spencer with me. And you can see him wearing the England cap, of which I was very grateful and fortunate. I'm so proud that I had the opportunity to present him with it as a thank you. Because if it wasn't for him, I would have never have stepped on that sacred turf in London at Wembley Stadium. I would have never been that child that had the opportunity to go and watch and start to create what I wanted to become. If he hadn't have stood next to me and said those 6 words, where would I be now? My life is now dedicated to sharing words with other people because they changed, transformed, and I truly believe they saved my life. And I believe they can for you and the people that you speak to as well. And if you sat there thinking, what was the 6 words? I've chosen not to tell you. Because I really think, if you think about that scenario, think about the words you would have wished to have heard. Think about the words of which you have said, and you will find your own answer. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you.